Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing my March book reviews and we're also going to talk about my April TBR. I hope the lighting is okay in this video. I'm filming it pretty late. It is 4 o'clock. I just have not had time until now to be able to film this video this week, so sorry about that. But yeah, let's get into it. And this time I actually made notes because I noticed the last time I edited my book video, it was a little all over the place, especially when I got to the TBR section, so fingers crossed it works out better this time. I mentioned this in my February books that I had started reading Debutantes and I did finish it at the beginning of March, like March 3rd or something like that. So this is a book that follows 4 sisters. They live in a big old mansion in England with their father and great aunt, and the oldest sister is hoping to have her debutante season. She's like 18 and unfortunately she might not be able to because of the family's financial situation, and then the sisters find a mystery that could change their whole entire family's life. I thought this novel was really cute. I think I would have liked it more if I was younger. The romance is quite innocent. There's not really a lot of it. It is quite the opposite compared to Bridgerton, even though it's got the same vibes. There's also a really heavy focus on fashion, which I know younger me would have loved, but it got a little ridiculous to the point like every single outfit was described in detail. There was one whole entire chapter was basically all 4 girls getting dressed and getting their hair done. It was a little much, but I know I would have liked that if I was younger. This gives me very similar vibes to Downton Abbey. It is set in the same time, 1920s England. The family dynamic is quite similar. You know, you got the older great aunt who's like a little sassy. There's a good relationship with the staff, and it's the same time period, and it's kind of that same like PG family type of vibes. Mystery was pretty obvious to me. I knew almost immediately what it was, so the whole entire time I was reading it I was just like seeing the clues line up with what I thought. I was just like, how can you not see it? So overall I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. I thought it was cute. I think I would have liked it if I was younger. I would recommend this to, 13-year-olds. I think you would like it. Also, there is a sequel to this book and I decided not to read the sequel because I did felt like the ending was final enough that I was like, I don't need to know it. Like, there's no cliffhanger at the end. The sequel just kind of continues their lives, but since I wasn't in love with the novel, I didn't feel like I needed to read the sequel. Okay, up next we have A Touch of Death by Rebecca Crunden. Rebecca was kind enough to send this book to me, but all of my thoughts are my own. So this is a dystopian novel that follows Catherine and Nate. They are members of the high society of this kingdom and the dystopian world. Everything changes when they contract a mysterious illness and have to run away. Now, to start off, I will say I was a little confused because the synopsis at the back is kind of more of the backstory than what happened. Like, generally when you have a synopsis at the back of the novel, they kind of give you what like the beginning of the novel is and then what's going to happen like next, but that wasn't the case in this novel. So for example, in here they say that 2 years passed and then Nate returned. So I thought that like part of the novel was going to start off at those 2 years, but it didn't. It started when Nate got back, if that made any sense. So I was a little confused because at first I thought they were going to go back in time for some reason. I don't know if this is just me, or I was a little confused at the beginning, but once I realized that the synopsis was just the backstory, I was like, okay, cool. I was able to keep on going forward. Also, it did take me a little bit to get into the book, about like 100 pages. That's pretty normal with fantasy or sci-fi novels because you gotta set up the world and stuff, so totally normal. But after those 100 pages I was totally hooked into the book, and there's a couple different reasons for that. First, the story is about fugitives on the run, so there's a lot of excitement behind it, like are they gonna get caught and all that stuff, and I found that it was like paced really well where like there was always that little bit of anxiety at the back that they were gonna get caught, but there was also some like slower moments as well. There's also a lack of chapters in the novel. They are broken up into like overarching parts, and that's when there would be like time jumps sometimes, but within those parts there's no chapter breaks. There are like breaks in the paragraph. So for example, you have these parts, but within the parts you'll have chapter breaks like this. So or paragraph breaks. So I was able to like stop reading sometimes, but because of the lack of chapters, it's very addictive and I just wanted to keep on reading. So like once I got into the book, I was totally hooked, didn't want to put it down. What's also really interesting is that there's a character who dies pretty quickly in the novel, but usually when that happens in a book, especially the first book, they're kind of never mentioned again. But this character was mentioned quite often, which makes me kind of suspect that the character isn't dead. But it is a really interesting way to get to know a character because it's through other people's memories that you learn about this character. But it kind of did get to the point where I was like a little annoyed because I was like, this guy's dead, or at least so you say. So that was one thing that was really interesting in the novel. The book is pretty PG-13 in the sense that there's like no sex, there's like some romance and like mention of sex, but there's no like graphic depictions of it. But there's a lot of other stuff, like there's a lot of language, there's a lot of violence in the novel, there's like drinking, smoking, and all that stuff. It is an adult novel. The characters in the novel from like 16 is the youngest, but like the main characters are like 20 to 24 type of thing, so adult novel. So I give this book a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I thought this was a really interesting take on a dystopian novel. I feel like a lot of them are all kind of the same, but this one was quite different compared to like the Hunger Games and Divergence of the dystopian era. And also I was pleasantly surprised because this is an independently published novel, and you never know with independently published novels if they're gonna be good, but this one was really good. Really excited for the rest of the series. And speaking of that, I also did read the next book in the series. I actually did read another in between because I like ordered this and I had to wait for it to come in, so I started another one in between, but I'll talk about it now since I was talking about the first one. So this is A History of Madness, which is a sequel, and the covers actually did change. I have an old cover, but these are the newer covers, as you'll see. So I just have a mismatched cover. So this continues from where the first book left off. The first book, A Touch of Death, was mainly from Catherine's perspective, and this was from Nate's. Sorry if I moved. I did talk to my dad and I came back with a nice latte. So yes, so in this novel their perspective switched, so because of that it was a little slow. There was a bit of backtracking at the beginning of the novel, and I kind of just wanted to know what happened to Catherine, but like I had to, you know, wait a second, so it was like kind of a little annoying, but like obviously done on purpose. And yeah, overall I liked Nate's point of view. Sometimes I wanted to yell at him for being an idiot, but overall I did enjoy him. I like Nate as a character. I like Catherine as a character. They're pretty good characters. Once it did pick up though, it was pretty steady, and I actually liked it because in the last like, I don't know, 50 pages ish, I thought it was like, I kind of reached like an end, and I was just like, what are they gonna do for like the end of the novel? And then Rebecca added a new element to it, which like made it much more interesting. I don't want to like give it away, but yeah, she kind of like kept on building the plot. Like I mentioned, this is a dystopian novel, and actually it kind of works because they talk about history. So in this novel you do get to learn more of the history of the world, of like how humanity got to the dystopian point that is in the society, and it is actually quite interesting. Talks a lot about like nuclear weapons and the environment and stuff, so pretty interesting, pretty relevant. And sometimes like when you have a dystopian novel you're like, well, that doesn't make sense, but it actually kind of is realistic what happens, so I like that. There is way more romance in this novel. Oh, and I forgot to mention that in like this one it's like unrequited love. So there is more romance in this one, but it's not like ACOTAR, From Blood and Ash type of romance. Like there is some, but not compared to some like other new adult books. There's a lot of really great discussions on some really serious themes such as abortion, rape, God and death, freedom, and like otherness, because there is another species of humans, which is really interesting, and so they talk about that. I would just check trigger warnings. If you go on Goodreads, one of the like some of the reviews do have them listed out, so I'll just check them out. And yeah, overall I give this 4.5 out of 5 stars. So far in this series, 4.5 out of 5. I think they're really amazing dystopian novels. I'm just not fully giving them like 5 out of 5 stars, just because I said there have been like a couple of issues. Although I don't necessarily think that someone who doesn't like dystopian would like these novels, and that is something I do take into consideration when I rate novels. I'll give something 5 out of 5 stars if I think it's amazing. Everyone should read it, and I don't think everyone would necessarily like it and should read it, so that's just something I take into consideration. But who knows, maybe by the end of the series it's so good that I do think everyone will like it. So I like to keep that in mind when I'm rating books in a series, because I really do think that a series as a whole is important, because I don't want to read one book in a series and then for it to get bad. So I don't want to recommend the series if like only the first ones are good and the ending is bad. So just keep that in mind. I'll update you as I finish the series. But I will say that reading the reviews on Goodreads for book 3 has really good reviews, saying that it's better than the first 2, so I am excited. And then the final novel I'm going to talk about that I read, but like I said, I technically read in between the other 2 books, is The Giver of Stars by Jojo Moyes. There's no author. She wrote Me Before You and that whole entire series. I wasn't going to read this because it wasn't on my TBR, but my mom was like, you need to read it. My mom and her friend have been reading all of the Reese Witherspoon novels, so my mom wants to lend this to her friend, so she's like, can you read it so I can lend it to her? So that's why I read it. Probably will be reading a lot more Reese Witherspoon books, because basically if my mom reads it and likes it, then she gives it to me, which you'll see another book, a book in my April TBR. But anyways, so The Giver of Stars is an historical adult book. It follows a group of women who run a traveling, or they call it pack horse, but traveling pack horse library in rural Kentucky. In the beginning of the novel, it's kind of from one point of view, and then later it kind of switches point of views, but the one at the beginning is of this English woman, Alice, who moved to rural Kentucky after marrying her new husband, son of the town's mine owner. Yes, lots of words there. So there is a huge cast of characters in this novel, and I absolutely love all of them. I thought they were all unique and added to the story, and it was fun to read their growing friendship, and then like as their friendship bloomed, the interactions in between all of them. Also, like Alice, like I mentioned, is an outsider to this community, so it's actually quite helpful, because I also don't really know a lot about rural Kentucky, so I got to learn about it as she learned about it. That I think she did a really good job of towing that line in between critiquing but also showing the beauty of rural Kentucky. There was a lot of things she critiqued, you know, this part of the area as a part of the like Bible Belt of America, so critiquing its hard religious stances, its treatment of a woman, about the impact of mining on the area, all of that stuff, but also showed that it's not all bad, that there is a huge community aspect of this type of rural small town community and how good it could be, and also just how physically beautiful the area is, and talking about that and how there is good people there. So, you know, it wasn't all bad, but it wasn't all good. It kind of showed both sides, which I liked. This book is a little bit predictable in the sense that like I had a feeling what the ending was going to be, but if the ending didn't happen, I would have been mad, you know? Like, it's a happy ending, and when you kind of have a feeling that a happy ending is going to happen, if you don't get that happy ending, you're going to be mad. So I didn't mind that it was slightly predictable, because it's what I wanted, if that makes any sense. If you hate predictable novels, then obviously you're not going to like this, but if you don't mind predictability, if you don't mind a happy ending, if you want that, you'll like this. This is a very easy to read book. It's a very comforting, it's very comfortable. It's perfect for, you know, during a pandemic when you might be a little scatterbrained and can't focus on reading, and you don't want to read anything too depressing. You want a happy ending. This is a good book. Also, if you like reading, this book is all about reading, so it was so fun for me to read about women and people who like to read, so definitely something to note. So I give this book 5 out of 5 stars, because I think a lot of people would really like this book, and there's nothing I would change. It was a fun read. I wanted to read it. It was really addictive. And yeah, it just gave me warm, fuzzy feelings inside. The one thing I want to just quickly acknowledge and I talk a bit about this in my blog post, is that there has been some plagiarism controversy with this novel, that basically another novel came out a couple months for this one on the same subject, and it's a pretty like niche subject. So there has been some plagiarism accusations. I have not read the other novel. I forget what it's called. I can put the name up, so I can't say whether or not I agree or disagree, because I don't think it's fair without reading the two novels to be able to say that. I would just recommend doing your own research and making your own decisions. Did I enjoy the novel? Yes. That's what I'll say on that. And now let's get into my TBR. I already have a feeling that it's going to be all over the place, and it might not be what I say in this video. So first, let's get started. I've currently started 2 books, so I'll probably finish them. First is Emotions Revealed. I talked about this in my March TBR. So I started reading this, and I am now about 80 pages in. I tried to read anywhere from 10 to 20 pages a day. That's just kind of how I like to do nonfiction novels. Any more than that, and I just find that I'm not absorbing the information. I kind of just like to do little doses of it, just to like process what I'm reading. This is a novel about emotions, mainly focusing on facial emotions, some mention of vocalization of emotions as well. So far I am enjoying it, but so far so good. I'll give a more in-depth review once I finish it. And the other book I started, it's book 3, and it's called the Outlands Pentology, by the way. It's called the Outlands Pentology. So I'm on the 3rd book. But I started this the other day when I had finished my 20 pages of Emotions Revealed and still wanted to read some more. I'll be reading this. So this is A Promise of Return. It is the 3rd book, and I won't give too much detail because it spoils the plot of the other ones. So yes, reading this. I am also going to try and finish the series. So we have, I believe this is book 4, A Dance of Lies. I'm trying to cover the back so I don't see any of the spoils. And then the last one, Time of Prophecy. And by the way, the books are really not long. You can see these are how big the books are. And let me show you in comparison to like, see, like they're not really long books. They're like anywhere from like 200 to like 300 pages. So yes, those, I will be trying to read these too. The other novel that I want to read is The Last Mrs. Parrish, or Miss Parrish? Mrs. Parrish? So like I said, my mom's friend lent this to her and she really liked it and told me to read it, and I want to get around to it sooner than later because they lent us the book. My mom said it was weird at times, but the twist at the end was really good. That is my mother's review. And she told me to read it. So the synopsis of this is the story follows Amber, who is a quote-unquote nobody, and she's trying to worm herself into the life of the Parrishes and undermine the wife Daphne. So things are working well for Amber until a skeleton from her past comes and may ruin it all. So yeah, it is a thriller. I've heard lots of good things. It actually was on my TBR, so I was planning on reading it anyways. It has just moved its way up, and this is also another Reese Witherspoon book club pick. The other thing too is that my birthday is on Sunday, the day that this video is going up, so happy birthday to me. I asked for some books for my birthday. We'll see what I get, and depending on what I get, my TBR might change if I want to read those books sooner than later. I originally was gonna read them like right away because I was thinking I was gonna have the other series finished by the end of this month, but yeah, because it's gonna take me a little longer than planned, means that I might take longer for me to get into. I asked for ACOTAR, or A Court of Thorns and Roses, that series for my birthday. I was planning on reading it in April, but it might not be until May. So anyways, yes, that is my March books and my April TBR. I have book reviews for all of the books except for A History of Madness, because I'm going to wait and do review once I finish the rest of the series. So I will link all of those reviews for those other books down below. Also check me out on TikTok if you are into book content, because I post a new video there every single day. I will post reviews for each of the books that I read like sooner after I've read it, so if you want to see the reviews a lot quicker instead of having to wait for these, then you can do that. So yeah guys, that is it for today's video. Please, with all my book videos, I always say this, comment down below what you're currently reading or any book recommendations that you have for me, because I have a long TBR and I love adding books to it. And please like this video if you want to see more book related content from me. That is it for today, and I will see you in another video super soon. Bye. Ugh, my foot is asleep.